welcome to the One Life Church devotional series. We cover the entire Bible in 20 months. Well, today's chapters are 1 Peter chapter 2 and Proverbs 29. Now, I am still in transit. I'm at another airport, can you believe it? And as we look at this airport, we look at the great Apostle Peter, who was based in Jerusalem and then wound up in Rome. And he's concerned in this particular chapter about people's sanctification. In other words, that they're becoming holy, that they're becoming like Jesus. So he says, rid yourself of all malice and all deceit. But you might say, well, Ronald, how do we do that? Well, he gives us an idea. He says, firstly, crave spiritual milk. Because if you do that, you will grow in your salvation. In other words, take the words that he gives you, even if it's simple, take it, you'll grow. And then he says in verse 4, come to him. Because if you come to him, you get built up in him. So you come to him and you come to his word. And the one who trusts in him will never, ever be put to shame. And then he describes in verse 9 who we are. He says, you're a chosen people. You didn't choose God. He came after you. He picked you. Just like, you didn't pick your family. Your family picked you. You're a royal priesthood. You're a royal priesthood. In other words, you have access into the very holy place. You're a holy nation. God's special possession. You belong to him. To declare his praises, he called you out of darkness into the light. So then he says, because of that, friends, verse 11, dear friends, I urge us to live as foreigners and exiles in this world, to abstain from the desires of this world. And then one of the very difficult applications of this type of living is when you have authority, human authorities over you that are ungodly. And he uses the example of slavery. And he basically says when you're in that context, God hasn't come to overthrow every bad government in the world. No, he hasn't come to do that. If that's the situation you find yourself in, he says, fear God and honor the emperor. That's the way we ought to live. And other parts in scripture tell us that when we do that, emperors get ministered to. The people that we being led by get ministered to. And then you say, well, God, why should we do that? Well, he says, well, look, Jesus was treated far, far worse. You say worse than slavery? Well, yeah, he was murdered and abused. And so he's basically saying that whatever lot you find yourself in, emulate Jesus. Now, chapter 29 is in Proverbs is a lot about government and kings. He says, by justice a king gives a country stability, but those who are greedy for bribes tear it down. We've seen that all over the world, haven't we? The righteous care about justice for the poor, but the wicked have no such concern. If a ruler listens to lies, all his officials become wicked. Isn't it amazing how the rot sets in our country? I mean, our president at the moment is trying to undo that rot, isn't he? Verse 18. Where there is no revelation, people cast off restraint. In other words, where people don't see God, where they've got a wrong view of God, then they just do anything they want. And then he ends with this verse. Verse 25. The fear of man will prove to be a snare. If you're worried what people think, if you're worried, I mean, here I am sitting in an airport here, and there are people looking at me, listening to the gospel. If you're worried about what people think, it's going to ensnare you. If you're worried about your boss, if you're worried about the ground you're going to lose, it's going to be a problem to you. But whoever trusts in the Lord is kept safe. People don't keep us safe. Governments don't keep us safe. Laws don't keep us safe. Jesus keeps us safe. That's the one that we ought to revere and fear. God bless you.